and 3 more daughters, but it didn't happen until when? And some of us are sitting here right now. We've been hurt by members of our congregation. We've been hurt by members of the clergy. We've been hurt by members of our family, and we have become victimized. We're still playing those DVDs at night and repeating and memorizing and visualizing what somebody did to us 15 years ago. And some of those folks are still dead, and we are having peptic ulcers, and we are having accelerated heartbeats because we keep on revisiting what somebody has done. Some tricky trustee, some devilish deacon, some cantankerous choir member. You got to take and destroy those DVDs. You got to tell God to take your heart and change it, because Bishop Desmond Tutu was exactly right in his book, No Forgiveness, No Future Without the Forgiveness. He says that forgiveness takes the sting out of memory. It takes the sting out of memory. What that really means is this: when you really forgive, don't let anybody tell you you forgive and then you forget. You don't forget, but when you forgive, it keeps you from being immobilized. When you forgive, it keeps you from being paralyzed. When you forgive, it makes you lose weight. You trying to lose weight on Jenny Craig? That's not enough. When you get the weight off of you of holding things in, let God fight your battle. Let God make a way. Stop trying to figure it out in the smoke-filled room and let God do it.
Celebrating 100,000 subscribers on YouTube.com. Brother Rollins, Videos of Christ.
These few moments that we share, if you turn to Mark chapter 4. Mark chapter 4. Mark chapter 4. I want to commence reading with verse 35. And the same day when the even was come, he said unto them, let us pass over unto the other side. And when they had sent the multitude away, they took him even as he was in the ship. And there were also with him other little ships. And there arose a great storm of wind, and the waves beat into the ship so that it was now full. And he was in the hinder part of the ship, asleep on a pillow. And they awake him and say unto him, Master, carest thou not that we perish? Well. And he arose and rebuked the wind and said unto the sea, Peace, be still. Mama. And the wind ceased, and there was a great calm. Yeah. And he said unto them, Why are ye so fearful? How is it that ye have no faith? And they feared exceedingly, and said one to another, What manner of man is this, that even the wind and the sea obey him? I want to talk about it's a guarantee. Why don't you tell your neighbor, it's a guarantee. Tell them like you mean it, neighbor, it's a guarantee. Why is it at the first sight of a problem we panic? By now, your level of faith ought to be at such a point that no matter what happens, you can say that it's a guarantee that I'm going to survive. And I thought I would come because many of us, we move on guarantees. Our participation, it is synonymous to what we're guaranteed we're going to get once we give our service. I thought I would come tonight to talk about those of you who are in a storm or on your way to a storm, to suggest to you that because he told you we're going to pass through it, it's already guaranteed that you're going to come out. I feel your fear. I feel your frustration because you're saying that if God is so good, he gives beauty for ashes, strength for fear.
Beauty for Ashes Ministry present their Fancy Hat Tea Party. It's going to be Saturday, February 22nd, 2025, with host Sister Charmaine. Guest artist will be Mr. Omar Whiteley. Guest speaker, Mr. Orlando Darkins, a businessman and motivational speaker. Showtime is at 3 p.m. It only costs $4,000. It's going to be at the Lovely Spot Racecourse, St. Mary. Call for your tickets at 876-822-1199. There are going to be prizes and surprises. Come flex, be entertained, and be motivated. The Helping Hand Ministry will also be there.
Strength for faith, madness for mourning, peace for despair. He gives beauty for ashes.
Look at your neighbor and say, neighbor, I have a God guarantee. So what I have to understand, brothers and sisters, that what the devil is trying to do, he's trying to stop me from getting to my real mission and ministry in Mark chapter 5. Because you will understand the devil had a great foothold of 3 different characters in Mark chapter 5. He has a man that has lost his mind. He has a woman that's losing her life. And then he has a girl that's 12 years old that's getting ready to die. But what Jesus does, he shows them that not only do I have power over nature, but I got power over anything that the devil can do, because Mark chapter 5, verses 1 through 20, we see him as being a psychiatrist. And I think I ought to tell you, he is a mind regulator. And the only reason you didn't lose your mind is because he kept your mind. Are y'all listening to me here tonight? And then he has this woman that has this issue of blood that comes out of nowhere. She gets her miracle from the backside. She grabs hold of his tassel. She touched the hem of his garment. And now he turns into a physician. And when I look at him, liquid life is leaving her body. She's dying, standing up. But on this particular day, Jesus decides to walk and this woman decides to run. And that could be good news for somebody here tonight. You're taking your time getting to Jesus when you ought to run to get it off you and put it on him. And so then he closes his day with being a pediatrician. Here's a girl that's moving from the girlhood to womanhood. Here she is. Watch what she does. She's dying. This little girl is dying, but her father has faith enough to say that if I can just get Jesus, if I can just get him to come to the house. But what happens, he gets some bad news on the route, and Jesus speaks to him to suggest to him, you didn't ask me to fix it on the route, but you asked me to fix it at your residence. And some of us are worried because what happens when we're en route to get the blessing. Some of us are frustrated because of what happens when we're en route to get the miracle. But you must understand that you didn't pray for him to fix it on the route. You prayed for him to fix it at a particular residence. And what God is trying to ask you tonight, are we there yet? Look at your neighbor and say, are we there yet? You see, if the devil can get you from getting where your promise is, then he'll understand you'll start doubting God, because the text asks a strange question. He didn't say little faith. He says, how is it that you had no faith? I wondered about that. 3 things I want to highlight here tonight. If you're going to understand that what you're in, you're already guaranteed to make it. If you're going to understand that what you're in is not going to stop you, first of all, the text suggests to us in verse 35, you've got to remember the route. Let the church say, remember the route. Say it loud, remember the route. Here it is, verse 35. He said, and let us pass over unto the other side. The other side, you've got to understand, he didn't say that we're going to stop in the middle of it. He didn't say that we're going to die in the middle of it. So what you've got to understand, when you remember the route, first of all, you got to have clarity before you sail. Ought to have some help right there. You see, the older people back in Mississippi used to say, I know that I'm a child of God, although I move so slow. And then they would suggest why they move slow. They said, I'm going to wait until the Spirit comes and I'm going to move at God's command. You see, some of us, we've gotten so deep and wonderful until we start moving without the mandate of the Master. Some of us, brothers and sisters, we start making our own moves as if God is not smart enough to tell us where to go, what to do, and how to do it. You remember Abraham got in trouble. You remember when he and Sarah tried to help God out, he began to manufacture his own blessing. And you've got to understand, sometimes when you try to manufacture your own blessing, your blessing will turn into a burden. Are y'all listening to me here tonight? And he says unto him, he says now in Genesis 22, he says, Abraham, what I want you to do, I want you to get the son, Isaac, the one whom you love. Now, I don't want what you manufactured. I want your miracle baby, because